Hey everybody, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar, back behind the drum kit. You know, every 10 videos or so, I like to jump back and pay homage to my very first instrument. You know, actually my first instrument was violin, and I guess recorder when I was in second grade or whatever. But my first serious instrument was the drums. So I love coming back here and doing a video now and then. I remember back when I joined a cover band and I had a lot of things surprise me. One time we were playing a show and barely anybody was dancing. It almost seemed like people either hadn't had enough to drink or they were just being really shy or whatever. But everybody just stayed seated for the most part until we kicked into one particular song. And that song was Wonderful Tonight by Eric Clapton. It's a song that I had heard my entire life. In fact, one of my very first compact discs back when they were brand new was Timepieces by Clapton. And I just remember going through each one of the songs and checking them out. And I was like, I can't believe I could just go to the next song with a push of a button instead of fast forwarding. It was a miracle to me. But I never realized the power that that song had in a live situation. And over the years, I realized why that is. First of all, it's a very recognizable song. Everybody who grew up at a certain time heard it on the radio like I did. But the bigger reason, I believe, is because a lot of us guys hate to dance. You know, if a band is playing an upbeat song, it's really hard for us to get out on the dance floor and shake our stuff unless we have moves, which I do not have. So when a ballad comes on, you know that you could just go out there and, you know, hold your lady and sway. So it's a different vibe. It's not as intimidating, if you will. I was playing guitar in this particular moment, and I remember doing the bendy lead part, you know, the signature lick that everybody knows from that song, and looking up and just seeing the floor fill up. It was amazing. Over the years, I would play this song again and again with a whole bunch of different bands, and I started to notice certain tendencies. And one of the big ones was that almost every single drummer refused to play the actual beat for this song. The one drummer that I played with that did actually try to play it true to form was my friend Tony. And it's kind of funny because every time he played it, he sort of sighed like, okay, here we go, Wonderful Tonight. And I don't know if it's because of the beat involved in playing this song or because he just didn't like the song. And we would talk about how crazy it was that a slow ballad, you know, like this had such a deceptively intricate beat throughout the entire thing. So what did most drummers do? And if you go on YouTube and watch, you'll see that drummers play it different. Every single band, someone's doing it differently. But a lot of drummers make it real basic like this, which makes sense actually. Now, if I play that beat and play the instruments over the top, I'll overdub them afterwards here. You could hear that it does the job. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. That'll get you through a lot of wedding gigs, trust me. I've also seen drummers play it this way with straight 16th notes. That makes sense too, but it kind of makes it feel like a slow rush beat or something. I wouldn't do that. What is that, subdivision? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. A ton of drummers do this. They play the actual side stick for this part, which also makes a lot of sense. That gives it a nice laid-back sound, especially if you're in a small room. You don't want to be cranking the snare for a ballad like this, most likely. Check out the actual recording, and you'll see that it's a lot different than what I just played. And so I want to show you what's actually going on and show you why I don't blame drummers for not wanting to play the actual beat. Let's begin with the hi-hat. So it's not a straight 8th note groove like that. It's also not straight 16ths. Although you're going to see why people thought it is. What you do is you play everything but the E beat. So if you're counting 16 notes, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, just skip the E every time. So it's 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. So right off the bat, that's sort of a drag to have to do that through an entire song, especially a song like Wonderful Tonight, because if people are dancing, sometimes the band wants to keep going, you know? So it can be a little bit crazy to do that through the entire thing. There's some cool ways to grip the stick to make that a lot easier. There's the drop grab method, which I like to do. Check that out, Gordy Knutson on YouTube. We have to fill in that E, so I'm filling in the gap with something. What I'm going to fill it in with is a little bit of a ghost note on the snare. Now, this reminds me of when I first started taking drum lessons. I wanted to learn the beat for Rosanna, so the Rosanna Shuffle. And Led Zeppelin, Fool in the Rain, has the same sort of groove. It's also known as the Purdy Shuffle. Every time I do a video about it, people just yell at me, it's the Purdy Shuffle. I'm like, I know, but I'm talking about Rosanna here. But for this beat, it's not a shuffle. It's straightforward, so it's a little bit different. But it has the same concept of hitting that ghost note in between the hi-hat. Here's what I mean. If I slow it down, that could seem weird, but when you speed it up, it actually makes sense. It's actually kind of a fun exercise, too. If I was doing the Purdy Shuffle, it'd be more like this. A little bit different, but we'll get to that in another video. So if you're doing this with your hands, that's great. But you also have to hit a real snare hit on the 3. So this can complicate things a little bit. So throw in that fill in E as much as possible at first, then later you could take them out wherever you feel it's not necessary. Because if you listen to the actual track, he doesn't do it every single time there's an E, but he does it a lot of the times. Here's what I mean by throwing in that main hit on the 3. So you would go 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. That's where the main hit is. So try to get up to that point with just your hands. That sounded cool. Now, unlike on Rosanna, we're not going to hit the tiny ghost note right after the main hit, okay? You can do that if you want to. It just makes this a lot harder. So here's what I mean. See that? That tiny little ghost note after the main hit could be very tough to throw in. I don't think he does it, so you could just hit the main 3 on that one particular spot. So this. See, it's going to leave a little bit of a gap, though, but that's okay. So that's kind of a deceptively weird thing to keep going over and over again throughout an entire song. But we still need to add some more stuff to it. So there's an open hi-hat that you have to hit as well. That's on the and of 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and. We have to talk about the kick drum. Because the first time you hit the kick, you're going to do it with the open hi-hat, and then you're going to hit it on the 1 right afterwards. And that's it. Throughout the entire song, that's mainly the groove. I would say 99% of it. There's a little bit of a stop right after the bridge, but this is pretty much the whole thing. Finally feels right. I have to do all the parts to really feel it. You know, when I was just doing my hands, that was weird feeling. So really watch that hi-hat and lock in that kick together with it. And the last thing I need to show you is that there are only 5 crashes, from what I could tell from my memory right now, in the song. I tried to count them, but I kind of scanned ahead, so I may have skipped 1 or 2. But I think there are only 5 crashes throughout the entire song. Right away, there's 1 big crash. Then for the bridge part, there's 2 quick crashes. And then at the end, there's 2 more, and that's it. And the weirdest part is that they're not just crash cymbals. It sounds like a China cymbal to me. It's kind of hard for me to hit my China today because my mic stand is in the way, but I'll try just to give you the sound. So if you listen, it's kind of more of a, like a ka kind of sound instead of a nice pretty crash sound. So you get this. I keep thinking of the recording session where the drummer's like, you know what, Eric? I think I'm just going to do this kind of crazy beat throughout the entire thing. It's kind of busy and weird, and I'm only going to hit the crash 5 times, and guess what? It's going to be the China cymbal. And Clapton just being like, whatever, you do you, man. So now let's compare the basic beat I did in the beginning of the video, and I'll put some instruments over the top, and then I'll do the actual groove and see what the difference is. So basic beat first. Now we'll beat a lot closer to the real thing. So that takes a ton of discipline to do it like the actual recording. Once again, that's why I don't blame a lot of drummers for just doing the straight beat. Makes tons of sense. But if you ever want to challenge yourself, try to do the real beat through the entire song and try to back off on hitting those crashes. Unless the leader of the band is like, man, we need those crashes in there, then obviously listen to them. So have fun with that. Look forward to my videos on the Purdy Shuffle. I have a lot of cool examples to show you guys and some easy ways to actually learn it, because that was the main reason I always say this, that I took drum lessons in the very beginning. I brought in Rosanna. I'm like, teach me this. Okay, everyone, thanks for watching. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.